They have no plan whatsoever. What's up, everyone? Jared from Patriots and Pop Culture here. Today's news is DC related. Rumors are going around that the Nightwing movie was mentioned in 2017 with director Chris McKay attached, might be back on the table, even though there's no clear-cut path to when it's going to be made, and apparently there's no real contracts in place at the moment anyway. But let's check out the story from Bounding into Comics and see what it's all about. Nightwing director Adam McKay says movie still in development at DC. And come on, Bounding, you're better than that. Adam McKay? The Will Ferrell director? Talladega Nights? Anchorman? Wrong guy. Here's Adam McKay, and here's Chris McKay. Two different people. And yes, I know they look similar, but I actually tried to research to see if they were even related, and I can't come up with anything. So they just have a very common last name. But they're definitely not the same person. Nightwing director Chris McKay. Let's continue. Nightwing may yet get his chance to fly on the big screen, much like he does in the pages of DC Comics, as a new report suggests that the former Boy Wonder's solo film still has wings. First announced in 2017, Geekosity recently claimed that the feature is still on the to-do list at Warner Brothers and DC Films, just considered less of a priority than before. Originally slated for a 2023 release, Chris McKay, already acquainted with DC via the Lego Batman movie, was tapped at the time to direct, and word from Geekosity Scoop is that he is still attached. Additionally, McKay revealed in a recent Cinema Blend interview that he still has the hope and will to make Nightwing. "I hope it's still a reality," said the director. "I hope that we still get to make that movie. As far as I'm concerned, it's not lost yet." He added, touching upon the film's placement on Warner Brothers' priority list. "It is obviously something that they've had other priorities. They've had other challenges. There was no concrete plan for Nightwing, per se. But all the cards for its production were put into place around the time WB released the redone cut of Justice League directed by Joss Whedon, a movie that derailed DC Films for a couple of years. Doesn't even feel like the same universe after seeing the Snyder Cut. 2018 Aquaman film flows so much better with the Snyder Cut than Justice League. Wonder Woman 84, however, kind of feels like Justice League. That picture's failure to launch with the average moviegoer placed Nightwing, which reportedly was meant to be set in the DCEU, into a bit of a limbo. As WB's slate got reshuffled, it became rather clear that they were softly rebooting DC's cinematic universe. Consequently, projects like the ill-fated Birds of Prey, the polarizing Wonder Woman 1984, and the globally successful yet controversial Joker were fast-tracked. Warner Brothers had things that they needed to do, and I think they found their way with their recent successes. Was Birds of Prey a success? And the stuff that they are planning on doing now, McKay continued with CB. "I think it opens the door for us to still be able to do a Nightwing movie. Pivoting away from Snyder's vision of the DCEU didn't work out the way WB hoped." Really? Y'all didn't see that coming? People were invested. And thus, after years of vehement demands from fans, the studio finally greenlit Snyder Cut. Thus, we are in a completely different milieu than we started in. The multiverse in play, they can go any number of directions with Nightwing now. One of the biggest complaints that I had about Zack Snyder's universe was that he said multiple times that the dead Robin, where the suit is in the makeshift Batcave in BVS, was not Jason Todd. That it was, in fact, Dick Grayson. So there was no Nightwing in his universe. And I think that was a huge mistake. He was going to not have a Nightwing in his version whatsoever. McKay further explained, whether you call it in an alternate universe or you pick it in their multiverse universe, which universe it's part of. What? Multiverse, universe, blah, 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 universe. Copy editor. Bounding, I like you. I like your website. Write better. I want to use your stuff. This is just written really bad. Copy editor, please. There are different ways into it. He then promised that Nightwing will be a big, action-packed, emotional movie. It may not budgetarily be similar to what we do with the Tomorrow War, but from a scope and scale standpoint, as far as the kind of action and the kind of heart, that's what Nightwing is going to be all about. It sounds like they have a budget in mind, though it isn't disclosed. Additionally, while Nightwing may be back on, don't expect it to gain traction until after 2023 and the release of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Whether Nightwing will land in theaters, HBO Max, or both is still up in the air. Nightwing has a huge opportunity to be something really big if done right. And I really like Chris McKay as a director. I thought the Lego Batman movie was going to be complete and utter crap, especially since they made that version of Dick Grayson look like Carrie Kelly. But I really like that film. I own it and I watch it with my kids a couple times a year. So I do have high hopes that they do make a Nightwing film. And I do hope that it's very good. He is one of my favorite characters. I would love for us to have a quality Nightwing film. But at the same time, Warner Brothers has to get their head out of their asses and come up with an actual plan. And if they can't come up with an actual plan that comic book fans and casual fans can both agree on, well then maybe they just need to stop completely. Because right now, everything that they put out is hit or miss. Wonder Woman 1984 had a huge potential to be something really, really good. Putting Wonder Woman in the 80s with that throwback retro vibe could have been really, really something special. And for a lot of people, including myself, it fell a little flat. And there's plenty of stuff to enjoy in that movie. But it also has its flaws. Like what Wonder Woman did to the guy. Don't really want to say the words on YouTube, having it flagged, but not exactly consensual, if you know what I mean. Waiting way too long to introduce Cheetah, and Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord was cheesy as hell. Like, I get it. You're in the 80s, so there's going to be a little bit of cheese factor. But why on earth did he put on that horrible accent? He could have just used more of a normal voice, and it would have been 10 times better. For as much as I don't like Pedro Pascal's views on the world and his politics and the way that he goes after fans and the way that he goes after people who vote the opposite way of him, I do believe that he is a talented actor. And I do enjoy the little bit of acting that he's able to do in The Mandalorian. Although we know that most of that is probably voiceover work and a lot of it is a stunt double. But he is a pretty good actor, and I have liked him in a lot of things that he's done. Jesus, that accent was bad. And that's just one of many of the examples of the things that Warner Brothers chooses to go with instead of paying attention to the source material, instead of paying attention to what comic book fans and even casual fans alike are saying about their films. They don't really seem to care. Birds of Prey was a mess. It was an absolute mess. It has a lot of fun parts in it, but overall, it's a mess. And I'm sorry, Black Canary was miscast. Journey Smollett-Bell is not Dinah Lance. Cassandra Cain was too young. And the majority of that plot was all because Harley Quinn was trying to get an egg breakfast sandwich. That's actually kind of cheesier than anything that they did in Wonder Woman 84, and that took place in the 80s. But there are good qualities to all of their films. But there are times that sometimes the bad does outweigh the good. Therefore, overall, it's a bad film. Shazam's pretty cheesy, but I really like that film. It has a really great tone for a family-oriented comic book film. And Zachary Levi is one of the most likable people in Hollywood. And it's really hard for me to like a lot of people in Hollywood because of the way that they interact with people on the other aisle when it comes to politics, because they throw politics into everything, forgetting that they are entertainers. Aquaman was easily one of my favorite films of 2018. Is it perfect? Hell no. No film is perfect. Except for The Princess Bride. And I will fight you over that one. But it's so good. Nobody knew how that film was going to work with so much of it being done underwater with the special effects that they had to do in place to make it look like it was underwater. James Wan pulled it off. James Wan is a really good director, and he's been able to work with a lot of really interesting circumstances. Just look at what he was able to do with Fast and Furious 7, given the fact that one of the leads died in the middle of making that film. That's a really hard thing to do, is continue that film to honor that actor and what they were trying to do. He found a way to do it. James Wan is one of those exceptional directors, in my opinion, that Warner Brothers and DC needs to keep for as long as humanly possible. Unfortunately, Zack Snyder was also one of those guys, and he doesn't have to be in charge of everything, but come on. The dude had a lot of really good ideas, and they shot a lot of those really good ideas down. Have y'all seen what he's been putting out on Vero lately about Jon Stewart Green Lantern? I want that scene. And the fact that they didn't even allow him to put that in the Snyder cut. They didn't allow him to put it in his director's cut. Yet they allowed Martian Manhunter, which was also cool. But it wasn't Jon Stewart Green Lantern. And we already have a Martian Manhunter on Supergirl, which ironically looked better than what they were able to do last minute in the Snyder cut. It's not great either. Honestly, I think they both kind of missed the mark. But we have so much hit or miss with DC that DC and Warner Brothers really needs a hit. And what better way to do that than having a lower budget, kind of like what they did with the first Deadpool over at Fox? Have a lower budget film, have a ground level hero like Nightwing, but you better find a way to bring back Ben Affleck's Batman. And you better not kill him off in Flashpoint, you dumbasses. You let Ben Affleck be Batman for as long as Ben Affleck wants to be Batman. And the same thing goes for Henry Cavill. You make Henry Cavill Superman as long as he wants to be Superman, and forget this stupid Ta-Nehisi Coates J.J. Abrams bullshit reboot with a Black Clark Kent. Nobody wants that. So, Warner Brothers needs to get their head out of their ass and cast a good actor to play Nightwing, given the fact that Ben Affleck's Batman at this point in time is probably going to be about 50 now. Find a way to bring him back. Find a way to get a Nightwing that's probably been Nightwing now for about 9 or 10 years. Maybe 12 at the absolute most. Make him early 30s, experienced. Maybe eventually find a way to have him take over as being Batman like in the comics, but you have to do it right. When Affleck says he's ready to retire, you don't have to reboot Batman with another Bruce Wayne like they're already doing. You can continue in the DCEU with Dick Grayson taking over the role. The only bad thing about having a pre-existing Nightwing before Batman and Superman meet is you miss out on the origin of the Nightwing name. Dick Grayson got the name Nightwing from a Kryptonian hero that Superman told him about. And I really liked that concept whenever they did it in the comics. But we won't get that with having an older Nightwing. That's okay. We don't have to have everything verbatim from the comics. But we do need to have these movies more heavily inspired by the comics with less of these independent choices that are causing division between the fans. And stop dumbing down your movies for fans. Last week, I heard Eric July say that the 90s X-Men cartoon was successful because they took it from the comic. They took the ideas from the comics and they didn't dumb it down for fans, even though most of your fans were going to be kids. So now, as an adult, I can look back on those old 1990s X-Men cartoons and I can see things that I never noticed as a kid, but I notice now, and I can appreciate it even more. But none of that stuff bothered me as a kid because I just didn't notice it. Now you notice things because they didn't dumb it down. So now there was little Easter eggs thrown in there that you can get as an adult that you never got when you were a kid. DC, do that with these films. Zack Snyder was a genius when it came to putting the little Easter eggs in. But how many of your other directors know enough about the comics to do that? How many of your other writers know enough about the comics to do that? Do you think Patty Jenkins knows enough about Wonder Woman to put all the Easter eggs in? No, she doesn't. You need comic book fans as your directors, as your writers, as your producers, and stop with the quotas of having to get this amount of minorities and this amount of females. Just get the best person for the job. And if Chris McKay is the best person to direct Nightwing, and I think there's a very high potential that he could be one of those guys who I could say is probably at this moment one of the best choices to direct Nightwing. I like his work. I don't think he's going to do to Nightwing what he did to Dick Grayson in the Lego Batman movie, because that was directly geared towards kids and families. Nightwing would not. Nightwing also has the potential to possibly be rated R. I mean, if the Suicide Squad is going to be rated R, if the Ultimate Edition of BVS was rated R, if the Snyder Cut was rated R, if Birds of Prey was rated R, your ground level heroes very much can do rated R. You can still do your PG-13 stuff for Shazam. You can even do PG-13 for Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash. Flashpoint might even have to be rated R. I mean, let's be realistic here. Depending on how much they adapt from the original Flashpoint comic, which from the looks of it is not going to be a lot. It looks very much like Michael Keaton's old version of Batman is going to be taking the place of Thomas Wayne. We might not get the Atlantean Amazonian War. We may or may not get a Reverse Flash. But then again, we don't know what they have up their sleeves yet. The only thing I can say is if they kill Ben Affleck's Batman in that film, we riot. Hard. And in my opinion, it's justified. Not really. But anyway, guys, what do you think about all this? Should a Nightwing film happen? Should it be set in the main continuity of the DCEU? Or should it be an Elseworlds tale like Joker was? Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, hit share if you can. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit the bell to get notifications, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as my kid says,
click on bell
to get notifications for upcoming videos.